There are certain things in life that must remain between you and God alone. We live in a world that demands transparency, that tempts us to overshare, to seek validation from those who were never meant to understand our path. But if you are truly one of God's chosen ones, you must understand this. Some revelations are not meant for the ears of the world. Silence is not secrecy, it is wisdom. Some of the greatest battles are fought in the quiet chambers of the soul, and some of the most profound blessings unfold in the unseen. What you reveal, you make vulnerable. What you protect, you allow God to strengthen. Today I will share with you 5 things you must never reveal. Truths that are sacred, hidden not out of fear but out of divine purpose, because when you learn the power of restraint, you walk in alignment with God's plan. There is immense power in silence, a sacred strength that most people overlook. We have been conditioned to believe that every thought, every struggle, every revelation must be shared, as if validation from others makes something more real. But this is an illusion. What is truly real does not require external confirmation. It exists beyond the need for applause, beyond the need for approval. And if you are one of God's chosen ones, you must understand that not everything should be spoken, not every truth should be laid bare before the world. Some things must remain between you and God alone. Imagine a seed buried deep within the earth. It does not announce its growth. It does not cry out for attention. In the stillness, in the darkness, it takes root. And when the time is right, when it has drawn enough strength from the unseen forces that sustain it. But if you dig it up too soon, if you expose it before its time, it withers. Many people do this with their own lives. They reveal their deepest thoughts, their divine revelations, their struggles and their dreams to those who cannot understand them, to those who do not have the spiritual eyes to see. And in doing so they allow doubt to take root, they invite interference, they make sacred things vulnerable. There are moments when God speaks directly to you, whispers that reach your soul in a way no one else would comprehend. Not every vision is meant to be explained, not every revelation is meant to be shared. In the Bible we see again and again that God often works in silence. Moses spent 40 days on Mount Sinai in the presence of God, hidden from the world, before he returned with the commandments. Jesus withdrew into the wilderness to fast and pray alone with God before beginning his ministry. There is a pattern here, a lesson woven into the very fabric of Scripture. Before anything great is revealed, it must first be protected. But the world does not teach us to guard what is sacred. It tells us to speak, to share, to put everything on display. Social validation has become a currency, and many trade their peace for approval. But what is given too freely is often taken for granted. There are things that should never be spoken, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. When you reveal too much, too soon, you invite opposition before you have the strength to withstand it. You open the door for doubt, for misunderstanding, for interference that can cloud your clarity. Consider Joseph, who received dreams from God about his future, dreams that foretold his rise to greatness. But when he eagerly shared these visions with his brothers, they did not celebrate him. They envied him. They betrayed him. They sought to destroy him. Not everyone will rejoice in what God has placed in your heart. Not everyone will understand the path you are walking. Some will try to dissuade you, not because they are evil, but because they are blind to what has been revealed to you. This is why wisdom calls for silence. It is not deception, nor is it fear, it is discernment. When God entrusts you with something sacred, he does so with the expectation that you will protect it. There is a time to speak, and there is a time to be silent. Knowing the difference is what separates the wise from the foolish. But silence is not passive, it is active trust. It is the understanding that what is hidden will one day be revealed, but only in God's timing. The greatest works of God often begin in secret, in the unseen, away from the eyes of those who might corrupt them. This is why you must guard your heart, your vision, your battles, and your blessings, not because they are fragile, but because they are precious, and what is precious must be protected. So before you speak, before you share, before you lay your heart bare before those who may not understand, ask yourself, is this something God has asked me to reveal, or is this something He has asked me to protect? If you are truly chosen, you must learn to listen not just to the voice of God, but to the wisdom of silence. Your struggles are sacred, and yet in moments of weakness we often feel compelled to share them with others, hoping for understanding, hoping for comfort. But not everyone is meant to carry the weight of your burdens, and not everyone who listens will truly hear you. There are struggles meant to be fought in silence, battles meant to be waged between you and God alone. When you expose your wounds too soon, you risk letting the wrong hands touch them. Hands that do not know how to heal, but only how to judge, how to doubt, how to diminish what you are going through. There is something deeply personal about suffering. It has the power to refine, to transform, to bring us closer to God in a way that comfort never could. But when you invite the wrong people into that sacred space, when you seek human validation for something that only God can truly understand, you weaken the lesson. You make your struggle a spectacle instead of a sanctuary. The world does not always respond with compassion. Often it responds with curiosity, with gossip, with opinions that have no place in the intimate work God is doing within you. Think about Job. When he was tested, when he lost everything, his wealth, his health, his family, his so-called friends came to him, not with comfort, but with condemnation. They questioned him, they doubted him, they accused him of bringing suffering upon himself. But Job's suffering was not a punishment, it was a process, a divine process meant to bring him into a deeper understanding of God. And yet his friends, blinded by their own limited perception, could not see that. This is what happens when we share our struggles with those who do not have the spiritual depth to comprehend them. Instead of encouragement, we receive doubt. Instead of understanding, we receive judgment. And those seeds, when planted in a vulnerable heart, can grow into despair. When you are going through a difficult season, when God is testing and refining you, you must be careful who you allow into that space. Not everyone is meant to see you in the fire. Some will speak words that weaken your resolve. Some will project their own fears onto you. Some will remind you of past failures instead of pointing you toward future victories. And then there are those who will take your struggles and turn them into whispers behind your back, using your pain as a source of entertainment rather than intercession. But silence does not mean isolation. It does not mean you must suffer alone. It means you must choose wisely whom you confide in. Jesus himself, when he went to pray in Gethsemane, took only a few of his disciples with him. Even then they could not fully grasp the weight of what he was carrying. Some things are meant to be carried with God alone. Some tears are meant to be shed in the quiet, where only heaven bears witness. Some battles are meant to be fought without an audience. The enemy thrives on distraction, and one of the greatest distractions is the wrong voice in the midst of your struggle. If he cannot make you doubt yourself, he will send someone who will. If he cannot shake your faith, he will send someone who will plant seeds of fear, seeds of hesitation, seeds of discouragement. And often those people will not even realize they are being used to weaken you. They may think they are offering wisdom, when in reality they are introducing doubt. They may think they are protecting you, when in reality they are steering you away from the very process meant to make you stronger. There is power in knowing when to speak and when to be silent. There is power in protecting the sacred nature of your struggle. You do not owe explanations to anyone. You do not need validation from those who do not walk the same path. God sees. God knows. And that is enough. Your suffering is not wasted. Your pain is not in vain. But it must be guarded. It must be honored. Because what is sacred should never be placed in careless hands. The vision God has given you is not for everyone to understand. When he plants a purpose in your heart, it is meant for you to nurture, to grow, to walk in obedience toward, not to seek permission or approval from others. But too often, people reveal their dreams prematurely, expecting encouragement, only to be met with doubt, skepticism, or even jealousy. Not everyone will celebrate the vision God has placed in you. Some will question it, some will try to talk you out of it, and some will even attempt to sabotage it before it can fully bloom. This is why wisdom demands that you guard what God has spoken to you. When you share your dreams with people who do not have the spiritual sight to perceive them, you invite unnecessary resistance. Think of Joseph. God gave him dreams of greatness, dreams of ruling, dreams that set him apart. But when he eagerly shared them with his brothers, expecting understanding, he was met with resentment. Instead of celebrating his calling, they plotted against him. What Joseph saw as a revelation, they saw as arrogance. What he received as a promise, they perceived as a threat. And so, his own family became the first to oppose him. This pattern repeats throughout history. Many of those who have been called by God face resistance, not from strangers, but from those closest to them. People fear what they do not understand, and when you carry a vision that is bigger than their perspective, they will try to reduce it to something they can control. They may call you unrealistic. They may tell you to be practical, to lower your expectations, to follow a safer path. But God's vision does not conform to human logic. It is not bound by limitations. What He has placed inside you is meant to stretch beyond what others can see, and that is why it must be protected. The enemy knows that if he can discourage you in the early stages of your journey, he can stop you before you even begin. He will use the doubts of others to make you question yourselves. He will use negative voices to make you hesitant, to make you second-guess whether you really heard from God at all. And if you allow those voices to take root, you risk abandoning what was meant to be nurtured. Every great work of God starts as a seed, small, delicate, and easy to crush if exposed too soon. That is why it must be hidden, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Jesus himself understood this. Throughout his ministry, he often told people to remain silent about the miracles he performed. He withdrew from crowds. He spoke in parables, revealing truth only to those who were ready to receive it. He knew that timing mattered, that revelation was not for everyone, that some things had to be concealed until the appointed moment. And if the Son of God exercised restraint in revealing divine truth, how much more should we be mindful of what we share? Your vision is not meant for public debate. It is not subject to the opinions of those who were never called to walk your path. When God speaks, He does not require a second opinion. Your task is not to convince others of what He has placed inside you. Your task is to trust Him, to walk in faith, to guard what He has entrusted to you, until it is time for it to be revealed. There will come a moment when what is hidden will be made known, when what was planted in secret will bear fruit for all to see. But that moment must be on God's terms, not yours. Do not rush the process. Do not expose what is still in development. Let the vision grow in the silence, in the sacred space where God is shaping it. And when the time is right, no opposition, no doubt, no force on earth will be able to stop it. When you do good, let it be between you and God. The world teaches us to seek recognition, to announce every act of kindness, to make sure others see the good we do. But the moment you perform a good deed for validation, its purity is diminished. True kindness, the kind that reflects the heart of God, does not need an audience. It does not seek applause. It is done in the quiet, where only heaven takes note. There is something sacred about giving without expectation, about helping someone without needing acknowledgement. Jesus himself warned against performing acts of righteousness for the sake of being seen. He spoke of those who give openly, who pray loudly in the streets, who fast with visible suffering so others will admire them. And he said they already have their reward. Their validation comes from people, and that is all they will receive. But those who give in secret, who serve without recognition, who act in love without seeking anything in return, Those are the ones whose reward comes from God. This is the paradox of true generosity. The less you seek recognition, the greater your impact. When you give openly for the sake of admiration, your kindness serves your own ego more than it serves others. But when you give in silence, when you love without needing credit, you align yourself with the very nature of God, because God gives freely. He blesses in ways unseen. He provides without demanding repayment. And when you embody that same selfless nature, you move in divine rhythm with Him. But the world does not understand this. It thrives on recognition, on approval, on performance. Social media has turned generosity into a spectacle where people record themselves handing out food to the homeless, donating money, or offering acts of service, all with the intention of gaining praise. But the question must be asked, is it truly generosity if it requires an audience? Is it truly kindness if it demands attention? Some things must remain hidden because their power is in their purity. The moment you seek validation for your good deeds, they become about you instead of the person you are helping. And if your motivation is to be seen, then the kindness was never selfless to begin with. But when you act without the need for recognition, when you serve simply because love compels you to, you embody the very essence of Christ. He healed, He fed, He served. And yet He often told people not to speak of what He had done, not because He was ashamed, but because true love does not need advertisement. There is also a danger in revealing your kindness to the wrong people. Some will twist your good intentions. Some will question your motives. Some will use your generosity as a tool against you, seeing it as weakness rather than strength. And when you make a habit of seeking approval for your good works, you make yourself dependent on the opinions of others rather than the affirmation of God. What happens when the applause stops? Will you still be generous? Will you still be kind? Or will you withdraw because the validation is no longer there? This is why the most powerful acts of love are often the ones no one knows about. The prayers whispered in secret, the sacrifices made without recognition, the quiet gestures of compassion that will never be repaid. These are the moments that carry eternal weight, because in those moments you are not performing, you are loving. And love, in its truest form, does not need to be seen to be real. So when you do good, do it for the right reasons. Do it because your heart is moved. Do it because God has called you to it. And most of all, do it without seeking reward, because the greatest blessings are the ones given in secret, known only to you and the one who sees all. Your next move is not for everyone to know. The plans God has placed in your heart, the steps He is guiding you toward, the breakthroughs He is preparing for you, these are not to be revealed prematurely. There is wisdom in moving in silence, in allowing God to establish His work in you before making it known to the world. When you expose your next steps too soon, you invite unnecessary opposition, doubt, and interference that can delay or even derail what God is doing. Not everyone around you has your best interests at heart. Some people are waiting to see you fail, not succeed. Others, even those who love you, may not have the faith to see what God is doing in your life. When you share your plans with the wrong people, their words can plant seeds of doubt in your heart. What starts as excitement can quickly turn into hesitation. Their fears become your fears, their limitations become your limitations. And suddenly what you were once confident about now seems uncertain. This is why discernment is crucial. Just because someone is close to you does not mean they are meant to hear every detail of your journey. Look at Nehemiah. When God gave him the vision to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, He did not announce it immediately. He moved in silence, inspecting the city at night, making plans without broadcasting them. Only when the time was right did he reveal his mission, and even then opposition came swiftly. There were those who mocked him, who tried to intimidate him, who sought to stop the work before it even began. Had he shared his plans too soon, the resistance might have discouraged him. But because he kept his vision protected until the right moment, he was able to move forward with confidence. Jesus, too, understood the importance of timing. Throughout his ministry, there were moments when he told his disciples not to reveal who he was. He performed miracles and instructed people to tell no one. He knew that revealing too much too soon could disrupt God's divine timing. The lesson is clear. Just because something is true does not mean it is time to share it. The enemy works through distraction and delay. If he cannot stop you, he will try to slow you down. He will send people who will question your direction, who will cast doubt on your plans, who will offer well-meaning advice that contradicts what God has already spoken to you. And if you are not careful, you will find yourself explaining and justifying your every move instead of walking in faith. But faith does not require explanation. It requires obedience. Some doors are meant to be walked through quietly. Some blessings are meant to unfold without announcement. When a tree is planted, it does not grow by declaring to the world that it is about to bear fruit. It simply takes root, unseen, stretching deeper into the soil before anyone ever notices its growth. And when the season is right, when it is strong enough to withstand the storms, it produces fruit for all to see. Your journey is no different. If you try to prove yourself too soon, you risk exposing yourself to forces that may shake you before you are ready. There is power in mystery. There is power in allowing God to reveal things in His time, not yours. When you protect your next move, you give God room to work without interference. You allow your plans to take root in faith rather than in the opinions of others. And when the time is right, when what was hidden is finally revealed, no one will be able to deny that it was God's hand at work all along. So move in silence, trust the process, and let God unveil your next step when He knows you are ready. Is right. When it is strong enough to withstand the storms, it produces fruit for all to see. Your journey is no different. If you try to prove yourself too soon, you risk exposing yourself to forces that may shake you before you are ready. There is power in mystery. There is power in allowing God to reveal things in His time, not yours. When you protect your next move, you give God room to work without interference. You allow your plans to take root in faith rather than in the opinions of others. And when the time is right, when what was hidden is finally revealed, no one will be able to deny that it was God's hand at work all along. So move in silence, trust the process, and let God unveil your next step when He knows you are ready. Have you ever felt something within you that defies explanation? A quiet, powerful presence that shapes the way you see the world. It's as if life itself begins to whisper its secrets, revealing a profound truth. You are not just a separate being moving through the chaos of existence. No, you are a vessel of something greater, something divine. When you carry God's presence, you don't need to announce it. It announces itself. Subtle but undeniable, this presence transforms the way you experience life and the way others experience you. Today, let us explore the signs that reveal this sacred truth within you, and in doing so, awaken to the magnificence of who you truly are. Have you ever stood in awe of a sunset, feeling as though you were not merely watching it, but were somehow part of it? Or maybe you've walked through a forest, where the rustle of leaves in the wind felt like a whisper directly to your soul. In moments like this, there's a realization, subtle yet profound, that you are not separate from the world around you. Everything, the trees, the sky, the breeze, and even you, seems to exist as one harmonious whole. This awareness is not something you force or seek. It is something that arises naturally when you carry God's presence. To carry God's presence is to live with a heightened sense of connection, not just with people, but with all of existence. It's like a veil is lifted, and you begin to see life differently. The boundaries between me and not me start to blur. You understand that you are not an isolated drop in the ocean, but the ocean itself, expressing itself through this unique form called you. This doesn't mean you lose your individuality. Rather, your individuality becomes a doorway to something far greater. Splash, splash the boards, splash the water, the knives, splash the machines. In this state, you realize that everything around you reflects the divine, the laughter of a child, the delicate petals of a flower, the hum of traffic. All of it is a dance, a symphony of life. You are no longer merely a spectator. You are part of the rhythm, moving to its unseen beat. This sense of oneness transforms your perception. You stop seeing the world as a collection of separate objects and start experiencing it as a living, breathing whole. When you carry God's presence, you also begin to notice a profound stillness within yourself, even in the midst of chaos. Imagine standing in the eye of a storm where everything around you is swirling and raging, yet at your core there is peace. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is intrinsic to who you are. It's as though you've tapped into an eternal source of calm, and this calm radiates outward. You become a beacon of serenity, not because you've mastered the art of pretending to be calm, but because your very essence is aligned with something unshakable. Not without trying times. People sense this in you, often before you do. They are drawn to you, not for what you can give them in the material sense, but for how your presence makes them feel. You may find that strangers open up to you, sharing their stories, their struggles, their dreams. Friends may tell you that just being around you makes them feel lighter, more hopeful. It's not that you've done anything special. It's simply that the energy you carry resonates with something deep within them. It's like if someone had said to you, "Imagine that person, the name you give, is gentle and tender." It reminds them, even if only subconsciously, of their own connection to the divine. This sense of connection brings with it a trust in the flow of life. When you carry God's presence, you no longer feel the need to control everything. You realize that life has its own intelligence, far greater than your own, and you begin to flow with it rather than resist it. This doesn't mean life becomes free of challenges, far from it. But even in the face of difficulty, you have an unshakable faith that everything is unfolding as it should. Every setback becomes a setup for growth, every closed door a redirection to something greater. And through it all, love becomes your natural state. Not the kind of love that is transactional or conditional, but a love that flows freely, asking nothing in return. You find yourself acting with kindness, not because it's the right thing to do, but because it feels as natural as breathing. Compassion and forgiveness become second nature, not because you've read about their virtues, but because they arise effortlessly from the depth of who you are. This is what it means to carry God's presence. It's not about loud proclamations or grand gestures. It's about being so fully aligned with the divine that your very existence becomes a testament to it. Life no longer feels like a struggle to prove your worth or find your purpose. Instead, it becomes a joyous expression of the truth that you are already whole, already connected, already divine. Waiting. When you carry God's presence, you don't just live life, you become life itself, unfolding in perfect harmony with all that is. To carry God's presence is to become a vessel for peace in the midst of life's chaos. It's not something you force or manufacture. It is something that emerges naturally, like the steady light of a lantern in a dark room. Life, as we know, is unpredictable. It is filled with storms, moments of uncertainty, pain, and fear. But when you carry God's presence, you find that no matter how fierce the storm rages around you, there is a quiet center within, untouched by the turmoil. This stillness is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to remain grounded in the face of it. You may find yourself responding to life differently than you once did. When challenges arise, you don't react with panic or frustration as easily. Instead, there is a sense of trust, a feeling that everything will be okay, even if you don't yet understand how. This trust isn't blind optimism or denial of reality. It is a profound knowing that life itself is on your side, guiding you through each experience, no matter how difficult it may seem in the moment. You begin to sense that every obstacle is an opportunity, every setback a redirection to something better inside of yourself, until the threat passes and the obstacle becomes the way. This peace, this stillness, is not just for you. It radiates outward, affecting everyone you encounter. People may not always articulate it, but they can feel it. Your presence becomes a sanctuary for others, a place where they can feel safe, understood, and even inspired. You may notice that people are drawn to you during their own storms, seeking comfort, wisdom, or simply a space to be themselves. If the heavy clouds held you down during your own storms, seeking comfort, wisdom, or simply a space to be themselves, it would, without trying, without effort, you provide that space. When you carry God's presence, your life starts to reflect an unspoken wisdom. You don't need to preach or persuade. Your actions and the energy you emit speak louder than words ever could. People sense that you see the world differently, that you are not trapped by the fears and illusions that often dominate human experience. This perception isn't about detachment from reality. It's about seeing reality more clearly, understanding that the surface chaos is part of a deeper order. Carrying God's presence also means living with a heightened sensitivity to the beauty of the present moment. You begin to notice things you once overlooked. A bird singing on a branch, the way sunlight filters through a window, the subtle expressions on a loved one's face. These small, seemingly insignificant details come alive with meaning. They remind you of the divine presence that pervades everything, including yourself. Gratitude becomes your natural response to life, not because every moment is easy, but because every moment is sacred. This deep peace and awareness transform how you interact with the world. When you speak, your words carry weight, not because they are loud or authoritative, but because they come from a place of truth. When you listen, you do so fully, with a presence that makes others feel truly heard and valued. You become a living example of what it means to be in alignment with something greater, and this inspires others to seek that alignment in their own lives. Your relationships begin to change as well. The conflicts and misunderstandings that once seemed so important start to lose their grip. It's not that you avoid challenges or disagreements. It's that you approach them differently. There's less need to be right, less need to defend your ego, and more willingness to understand and forgive. Take selfishness as an example. Love flows more freely, not because you've perfected yourself, but because you've come to understand that love is not something you give or receive, it is something you are. In carrying God's presence, you start to see life as a gift, even in its imperfections. The difficulties, the heartbreaks, the uncertainties, they are all part of the journey, shaping you, refining you, and drawing you closer to the essence of who you truly are. You stop resisting life and start embracing it, trusting that every experience is exactly what you need for your growth and transformation. This isn't about becoming someone extraordinary in the eyes of the world. It's about recognizing that the extraordinary is already within you, waiting to be expressed in your own unique way. To carry God's presence is not to shine a spotlight on yourself, but to allow the light within you to shine so brightly that it illuminates the path for others. You become a quiet reminder of what is possible, a living testament to the beauty and power of the divine presence that flows through all things. You are a testament to the beauty and power of the divine presence that flows through all things. When you carry God's presence, something remarkable happens. Your life becomes magnetic. This magnetism isn't about charm, wealth, or outward accomplishments. It's about the energy you carry. It's subtle yet powerful, unspoken yet undeniable. People are drawn to you without always knowing why. They sense something in you. The calm, the clarity, the kindness that resonates with something deep within themselves. It's as though you remind them, even if they cannot put it into words, of something they've forgotten, their own connection to the divine. This magnetism doesn't come from effort. You don't have to try to be special or impressive. You simply are. The more you align with the presence within you, the more your life begins to flow naturally. You stop trying to control how others perceive you. You let go of the need to seek approval or validation, and in doing so you become more authentic. And it is this authenticity, this unapologetic embrace of your true self, that draws others in. This unapologetic embrace of your true self that draws others in. You may find that people open up to you in ways they never have before. Strangers might share their stories, their struggles, and their dreams with you as though you were an old friend. Friends and loved ones might turn to you for advice or comfort, knowing instinctively that you will listen without judgment. Your presence becomes a safe space, a refuge in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. This magnetism is not about attracting attention for the sake of it. It's about being a conduit for something greater. You are not drawing people to yourself, but to the divine presence that moves through you. And this presence, this energy, doesn't just uplift others, it transforms them. Sometimes without even realizing it, they begin to feel more hopeful, more peaceful, and more connected simply by being around you. But this magnetism is not limited to people. It extends to opportunities, experiences, and the flow of life itself. When you carry God's presence, you align with the rhythm of the universe. Doors that once seemed closed begin to open effortlessly. Paths that were unclear become illuminated. It's not that life becomes free of challenges. Rather, the challenges themselves start to feel purposeful, as though they are guiding you towards something greater. This flow is not about passive acceptance or blind faith. It's about trusting the intelligence of life, knowing that every experience, whether joyful or painful, has something to teach you. You stop fighting against the current and instead learn to move with it, allowing life to carry you where you need to go. And in this surrender, you find freedom. This freedom transforms the way you live. You no longer feel the need to chase after things, whether it's success, love, or happiness. Instead, you attract them naturally. You realize that the external world is merely a reflection of your inner state. And as your inner world becomes more aligned with the divine, your outer world begins to shift as well. This alignment brings with it a deep sense of purpose. When you carry God's presence, you understand that your life is not random or insignificant. You are here for a reason, even if you don't always know what that reason is. Your purpose is not something you have to find or create. It is something you uncover as you live in alignment with the presence within you. In all of it, you begin to notice that the small things matter just as much as the big ones. A kind word, a gentle touch, a moment of silence shared with someone in need. These seemingly insignificant acts become sacred. They are expressions of the divine flowing through you, touching the lives of others in ways you may never fully understand. It's true that we sometimes waver and fear and need restraint. But remember that life is merely the culmination of all realities. And through it all, you remain humble. Carrying God's presence is not about elevating yourself above others. It is about recognizing that the same presence that moves through you moves through all things. You see the divine in everyone and everything, even in those who may not yet see it in themselves. In this way, your life becomes a living prayer, a testament to the beauty and power of the divine. You don't have to preach or persuade. Your very existence becomes a message of hope, love, and transformation. And in carrying God's presence, you not only transform your own life, but also become a catalyst for the transformation of the world around you. When you carry God's presence, you begin to notice a shift in how you trust the flow of life. This trust is not a blind hope that everything will always go according to plan. It's a deep, abiding faith that life, in its infinite wisdom, knows what it's doing. Even when things don't make sense, even when circumstances feel difficult or unfair, there is an unshakable knowing within you that all is unfolding as it should. We know this within you, and it may seem unthinkable that all these things are unfair. This trust allows you to move through life with a sense of ease, even in the face of uncertainty. You stop feeling the need to micromanage every detail of your life. There is less resistance to what is and more openness to what could be. You realize that trying to control every outcome is not only exhausting but unnecessary. Instead of forcing life to fit your expectations, you begin to align yourself with its natural rhythm. And as you do, you notice that life flows more effortlessly. Opportunities appear, the right people cross your path, and even challenges seem to carry hidden blessings. This doesn't mean life becomes free of pain or struggle. Challenges still arise, but your relationship with them changes. Rather than seeing difficulties as obstacles, you start to see them as invitations. Every setback becomes a chance to grow, every heartbreak a lesson in love, every failure a stepping stone toward a greater purpose. You begin to understand that life is not happening to you, but for you, shaping you into the person you are meant to be. Shaping you into the person you are meant to be. This trust in life doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. When you carry God's presence, you are anchored in something greater than yourself. You know that no matter what happens, you are not alone. This inner assurance gives you the courage to take risks, to step into the unknown, and to embrace change. You stop clinging to what was or worrying about what will be, and start living fully in the present moment. And it is in this present moment that you discover the beauty and depth of life. You begin to notice things you once overlooked. The way sunlight dances on water, the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind, the kindness in a stranger's smile. These small moments, which might have once seemed insignificant, now fill you with gratitude. You realize that life is not about waiting for the big, dramatic moments. It is about finding the divine in the ordinary. This sense of trust also transforms your relationships. You stop holding on to people out of fear and start loving them from a place of freedom. You trust that those who are meant to be in your life will stay, and those who are not will leave when the time is right. This doesn't mean you care less, it means you care more deeply, without trying to control or possess. Your love becomes a gift, freely given, without expectation or demand. When conflicts arise, you approach them with a sense of understanding and compassion. You are less reactive, less defensive, because you no longer feel the need to protect your ego. You begin to see disagreements not as battles to be won, but as opportunities to grow closer, to learn, and to connect on a deeper level. Forgiveness flows more easily because you understand that holding on to resentment only keeps you bound to the past. As you trust the flow of life, you also begin to trust yourself. You stop second-guessing your intuition or doubting your abilities. You realize that the same presence that moves the stars and guides the seasons is moving through you, giving you everything you need to navigate your journey. This self-trust empowers you to take bold steps, to follow your passions, and to live authentically. And perhaps most importantly, this trust allows you to let go. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about releasing what no longer serves you, so that you can make room for what does. It is about surrendering to the greater wisdom of life, trusting that what is meant for you will never miss you, and that what is not meant for you will fall away. In letting go, you find freedom. You stop trying to force outcomes and you start embracing possibilities. You stop living from a place of fear and start living from a place of love. And in doing so, you align yourself with the flow of life, becoming a living expression of the divine. When you carry God's presence, you trust, not because you know the future, but because you know who holds it. There is so little we can hold in this world that we should be the ones who realize that we hold this place, that we can see it through to its end. This trust transforms everything, turning even the most uncertain moments into sacred steps on the journey of life. When you carry God's presence, your actions become infused with love and compassion. These qualities are no longer something you strive for or consciously practice. They become an effortless expression of who you are. It's as though a wellspring of love has been unlocked within you, flowing outward to touch the lives of others. You no longer act out of obligation or expectation, but from a genuine desire to uplift and support those around you. This shift is profound because it transforms not just your actions, but the way you see the world and your place within it. Love becomes the lens through which you view everything. You start to see people, even those who challenge or hurt you, as reflections of the divine. Their flaws and imperfections no longer provoke judgment or resentment in you, because you recognize that at their core they are just like you, on a journey of growth and self-discovery. This understanding softens your heart. Instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, you respond with patience, kindness, and empathy. Carrying God's presence doesn't mean you condone harmful behavior or avoid setting boundaries. Rather, it gives you the clarity to act from a place of wisdom and compassion. You no longer see conflict as a threat, but as an opportunity to bring understanding and healing. When you forgive, it's not because the other person necessarily deserves it, but because you've come to understand that forgiveness sets you free. Holding on to anger or resentment only weighs you down, while forgiveness lightens your spirit and allows love to flow once again. This love is not limited to those closest to you. It extends to everyone and everything. You begin to feel a deep connection to humanity as a whole, recognizing that we are all part of the same divine tapestry. This awareness changes the way you move through the world. You become more mindful of how your actions affect others, not out of guilt or fear, but out of genuine care. Small acts of kindness, a smile, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, become as natural to you as breathing. You also find yourself drawn to serve, not because you are seeking recognition or reward, but because it brings you joy. There is a quiet fulfillment in knowing that your life, in whatever way, is making a positive difference. Whether it's through your work, your relationships, or even the simplest of interactions, you feel a sense of purpose in contributing to the greater good. And this purpose doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It can be as simple as offering love and presence to those around you. So, carrying God's presence also transforms how you experience yourself. Love is no longer something external that you seek or chase. It becomes the essence of who you are. You begin to realize that you are already whole, already enough, just as you are. This self-love is not selfish or arrogant. It is a humble acknowledgement of the divine presence within you. It allows you to let go of self-criticism and embrace yourself fully, flaws and all. As you love yourself more deeply, you find it easier to extend that love to others. You stop comparing yourself to them, stop feeling threatened by their success or differences. Instead, you celebrate their uniqueness, understanding that their light does not diminish your own. In this way, love becomes a force that unites rather than divides, a bridge that connects rather than separates. Even the way you approach life's challenges changes. When difficulties arise, you don't retreat into fear or despair. Instead, you meet them with courage and compassion, both for yourself and for others. You understand that every challenge is an opportunity to grow in love, to deepen your capacity for patience, resilience, and understanding. In carrying God's presence, love becomes your guiding principle. It informs every decision you make, every word you speak, every action you take. This love is not always easy. It asks you to be vulnerable, to open your heart even when it hurts, to extend grace even when it's difficult. But the more you lean into this love, the more it transforms you. It softens the hard edges of your soul, heals old wounds, and fills the empty spaces within you. Ultimately, to carry God's presence is to become a living embodiment of love. It is to let that love flow through you, touching the lives of everyone you meet. It is to be a reminder, simply by your existence, that love is the most powerful force in the universe, a force that can heal, transform, and unite us all. When you carry God's presence, your life becomes a testament to this truth, that love is not something we have to earn or create. It is something we already are. And as you live from this truth, you become a beacon of hope and light in a world that desperately needs both.